country I've read about in history, even in the beginning with the Arabs and the Israelis. Back then, the new guy came to power. He didn't know who Joseph was. He made them all slaves, and so it's been going on for years. And I think that's what's going on in Israel right now. Nobody knows. I mean, the Israelis want peace, and the other people, they don't want peace. And another thing that bothers me about the United States, and I talked about with Jay this morning that he doesn't understand, but the thing is, why are we the policemen of the world? Why are we given every country of the world when we're bankrupt? We should be taking care of ourselves here. But unfortunately, we are taking care of all the people who don't want to work. They just want to sit home. They want to get fat. We buy them wheelchairs or motorized and everything else. When I was in the hospital this weekend, I got out of the hospital yesterday, and I walked around the halls, and there was a room there, and they had one guy in there chained to a bed, an old guy. I mean, he looked about 60, 70 years old. And they had two guards sitting there playing games on their cell phone. And that's what we pay for. We're paying, and who's paying for this? Jay couldn't understand who was paying for this. We, the taxpayer. We, the taxpayer, are paying for this. And where are we getting the money from? Most of our debt is owed to China. We're going to become Chinese citizens. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be, I might still be alive when that happens, because we can't, if you look at the history of taxation, after the Second World War, taxes went up to 82%. After Vietnam, they went up. After all these wars. But when George Bush took us into war, when Clinton left office, we had a surplus. When Bush left office, we were $8 trillion in debt. When Obama took over, it was really sad because Bush had turned the economy so bad that Obama was only in office 2 months and everything went to pot. And he didn't know how to handle the situation, so he put everybody on unemployment. And everybody was on unemployment for 2 years. And so the debt rose. But by the time he left office, the economy was turned around. And then Trumpy comes in and said he turned the economy around. Bullshit. The economy was being turned around. And by the time he left office, the economy was back down the drain again. And now Biden is trying to turn the economy back around again. It's really sad that the average American doesn't know anything about history and doesn't know that we, the taxpayer, are paying the money for the budget and for all these troops to be stationed in all these other countries and giving all these other countries money when we need to. I want to tell you something. All this damn military thing is because the rich people, our number one export is military munitions and everything else, all right? And so if we want to have peace in the world, we can't have peace. So we have to keep everything going because these rich people, they want to make money on all these munitions. And it's really sad and it bothers me. Let's bring all these troops home and take care of us in America. Because if a war starts, that first nuclear bomb that goes off, we're all going to be dead. Because everybody else is going to be pushing the buttons. Every country will be pushing the buttons. And within a week, there'll be nobody alive.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yes, yeah. And so it just bothers me, all this stuff that's going on. And the average person is not talking about it or don't even think about it.
Because the average person isn't taught about it from, say, the age of 14, when that's about the right age, or maybe even earlier, to start teaching people about history and what can we do to make it a little bit smarter.
Well, that's what I want to do at Our World Peace Park. When I finally get it built, I want to build 40,000 dormitory rooms. And I want to have all the fifth grade students from all over the United States come there for a semester. A semester is about 10 weeks now. It used to be longer than that when I was in school, but now they have about a 10-week semester. And for each week, for the 7 weeks, they can go through every country of the world and be taught about each country of the world. And then in the evening, I want to have all these other groups that are, the Mothers Against Violence and bullying and all this stuff, and have them have meetings with these kids in the evening time and teach them how not to be bullying each other and how to not be talking about each other and how to learn how to like themselves. That's what I like to get done before I die. But I'm going to be 80 years old in a few months, and I don't know how long I have. So I need to get it done. So anyway, that's my whole story.
Thank you.
Can I have a turn? Can I have a turn?
Michael, go for it.
One of the shows that I watch is Freak Zacharias, and he does that Sunday show and writes a column. He was looking at the Israeli Palestinian war, whatever we're supposed to call it, and he was saying at this point Israel has an incredible military. Did they respond with 200 deaths to 8 or something? An economy. If one were to say that it's an apartheid state just because there's Palestinians in a little strip they can't get out of, and their houses are taken from them by Jewish people who have not learned that peace and love is the answer. I had a girlfriend at Brandeis when I was in Harlem in 1966, and she had a poetry professor who said what World War II taught the Jewish people was how to be Nazis. And you go, what a horrible thing to say. But if you look at the transition from the world of the kibbutz, where it's people, just trying to work together, make something very idealistic and good happen based on peace. And then you look at the world that was handed to, Madeleine Albright lost her job because she said, a bunch of Europeans got given a chunk of the Levant. And it's, and just displaced the population that had been there. This is the British Empire gift. They like apartheid a lot. And the African Jewish people do not always enjoy high level of civil rights and get shipped back to Ethiopia, et cetera. These are these stories that are documented, and it's worrisome. So how one would go forward is problematic. The number of dictators in the world is horrific. Netanyahu playing this incredible nationalistic, racialist, or whatever religious card in which you're displacing Palestinian Muslim families for their religion. They're not going to be. How loyal were the Irish to the British? Then they've got this irredentist weird thing where your land gets taken. As far as the southern people in the south of Ireland don't know anything about the north of Ireland, but they know that Ireland should be one place. They don't realize that the majority of the people living there are actually British. And when we start worrying about where is this wealth that takes care of this guy in the hospital when he's a down and outer, well, I think you can start off with the Indian Wars. That was a pretty good deal. A bunch of white folks came over from Europe, stole an entire continent, worked their butts off, enslaved a load of people, let 1 out of every 7 Filipinos come to California be a woman. That was, I talk about an evil, sadistic set of things. There was a big race riot in 1930 in Watsonville in which 300 people were killed because a Filipino guy was going out with a white girl. I think she might have been 14 in the bedroom, but still, 300 dead people is kind of a big one. Chinese exclusion acts, the racism of the white supremacists is absolutely horrifying. And I think some of this may have rubbed off on some of the nationalist community in Israel, which is in position to say, screw you guys, we got the guns, we got the money, we got the economy, we can do what we want. And that's what Netanyahu does. And you've also got they're rather highly corrupt Hamas shoots off rockets. They're not going to win a war with a bunch of homemade, crap rockets against a world-class Air Force. That's nuts, but it keeps them in power because they've got that symbiotic relationship of someone to hate. I just go back to Reagan and Khomeini. Those guys really made sure they stayed in power by saying death to America and death to Iran. It played really well in the U.S. and in Iran. And the Saddam Hussein history is so bizarre, how we got into Iraq, but how we make sure that a liberal democracy did not take place in Guatemala or Nicaragua. And then you wonder why the triangle of people trying to get out of these crazy drug war gangbanging situations. And it's where, like poverty you can live with, but your kids getting murdered on the street, not so much. So there's, how we move forward, how we achieve civilization. Interesting stuff. The Chinese, like us, we're still buying their stuff. World War I was a huge money maker. We went from owing 6 billion to them owing us in Europe 13 billion. And you go, wow, that's pretty good. Then we send everybody to high school and Europe destroys itself again with the Nazis. And there's this boom. And then they say, you know what destroyed America? And I go, yeah, well, the Germans and the Japanese caught up with us competitively. No, it was Ralph Nader. And those, they made us start doing safety things. This is New York. It's a real book. I know it sounds crazy. So there's all these nutty right-wing conspiracy things in which humanity is ignored. If there's all this bloody money around for the Kardashians to do crazy stuff, I would think they could take one of the handcuffs off the guy, make sure he eats well, and let him play video games with his guards or whatever. I don't know what the heck he's in there for. But, shootings are way up, and that's really horrific because it means a lot of young people in jail for a huge portion of their lives. The legalization of cannabis, a situation where under Clinton, you would get 5 years for being black and doing crack, and you'd get a suspension sentence for doing lines of coke in Studio 54. And I'm told you couldn't find a $20 bill that wasn't covered in coke in the 80s. So, we're not the purist. I think we kind of mean well and want to do family stuff, but long ways to go. And I think being kind to one another helps.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that history lesson, Michael. That was amazing. And I don't know how to top that right now, but does anybody have any response to the Netanyahu?
Netanyahu, dude.
Anything going on? No.
I'm clueless.
Right.
I have no idea about this guy.
Okay, so now, I kind of wanted to get into the Vatican a little bit, but let's move past that. And let's, because they rewrote all their laws to help convict people that are molesting their kids. And then let's move into...
and Jay, you left out the part that now it's become illegal to abuse adults as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and
I thought that was clever. Yeah.
And Netanyahu, the people that it will be replacing him, they're doing 2-year stints as premier, but it's got to go get the votes tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. And there's a Palestinian party in there. So Yuval Harari, the Hebrew University guy, he says that radical change is really horrific. You look at the Soviet Union or China, where you try to do these really cool things for working class people, and you end up with millions dead and famines and whatnot. So maybe these are positive steps for Israel and all the rest of us to get a breath and go forward. I don't know. I hope so.
I hope so. I hope this pandemic and after this post-pandemic and negotiations and everything going on can help calm people down and get us to a better place.
Well, we got to stop wearing masks. I mean, it's ridiculous that we all have to wear them, regardless of the circumstances, or if you just common sense, you have to wear a mask. But we're all antisocial creatures now. We're all hiding behind masks. and that breaks off the communication network right there. And we're all talking through them and breathing through them, and it's exhausting and it's tiring. And as soon as I go to my car, I rip it off, and I can't wait to keep it off.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a
My-
pain.
But the thing is that 100 years ago, they wore masks when they had this thing. And
The cholera
if-
outbreak, yeah.
And then if Trump would have had everybody wear masks like in Australia, they don't
Right.
have any problems over there in Australia and New Zealand. If Trump would have said, okay, let's everybody wear a mask, within a month, the pandemic would never have got big like it did.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have to be wearing masks for the last year and a half.
Education,
Or
right?
whatever.
Education. Yep.
Hey, y'all get your 2 shots.
What's that?
Yeah.
2 shots, everybody. I got mine.
I got mine too.
I got mine.
Okay.
But I'm sorry I got mine when I did, because now I could make $1 million by getting a shot today.
Oh, the incentives. That's right. All these incentives that everybody's getting for getting a shot.
That's good for the foolish times to put in there, Steve.
I
About
can understand why they got to put these incentives out there. I find it a little nutty. Are we going to be like the haves and the have-nots? Are we going to shame people who, again, we talk about this honor system of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. I talked to businesses. Monterey County went yellow today, a little mellow yellow and less restrictive as we head toward the 15th of no restrictions. And there's businesses out there that are still hesitant of allowing employees not to wear masks and allowing clients and customers come into their business without a mask. They have that right, do whatever they want in their 4 walls. You know, we all want this. No one wants to wear a mask. I certainly don't. And we could all say, yay, we don't want to wear a mask. But there's a lot of folks out there that will say that, but then they're hesitant to take it off full time. I'm not sure I want to go to a baseball game or a basketball game or a sporting event and sit next to a bunch of people I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not afraid. I'm vaccinated too. So for all intents and purposes, according to CDC, I shouldn't get anything more than the flu. If I
But
get
20 years ago, you would have gone to that baseball game and not even thought about it. It never would even come into your head.
that's
Right.
You
right.
just would have gone and hung out.
it really did something between our ears this whole time. And, you know, now again, we get on the subject of the recall with Newsom, and they're saying he's not going to get recalled. And usually that's the whole reverse psychology that he's in fear of getting recalled. So I don't know what the answer is. I do want to get, and I burn my masks. I don't want to wear them anymore. You know, I'm not afraid, but I'll also use my common sense and pick and choose where I go, how I get there, and the distance I keep from other people I don't know. I'll still use my common sense.
Steve,
Your
my
hygiene went up a little bit with a little bit more grace and understanding. Your hygiene is that much better.
And empathy. You know, we need to be empathetic because people are a little twisted right now. Mental health is a huge issue. And people are a little short. Just see the way they drive. I mean, it was bad before. It's really bad now. And it ain't good. And we really need something to rally this country around, rally communities together. And I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe the federal government needs to take over and legalize weed and take it off the state's plate and just keep us all high and medicated.
Thumbs up. I agree 100%, 1,000%.
Steve, I agree with you. And my great grandaunt, it was my grandaunt was a nurse, and in 1918, she would walk down the streets, and periodically people would just keel over dead with that version of with the not Spanish flu. So, and then my mother, this is so unfair. My mother is watching her babysitter talk to the milkman in a milk cart, counting hearses go into the graveyards down there and down by Burlingame and all that. And the cart ran over her toes, and she'd only counted 18 hearse go into the graveyard that day. as somebody born in 1916 and very precocious, good counter.
They did the same thing in New York. I mean, mass burials. They did the same thing here.
You guys still got refrigerators, dude. They've got
You're right.
refrigerators still full. They haven't gone empty them
The
yet.
body didn't smell as bad, but the body count was still high. And I just saw some recently where Fauci was talking to a bunch of people, and he said in 2017, we're going to have a pandemic. Prepare. What did you know back in 2017? And again, history, as it comes out and the truth comes out, after these guys are all dead is when it's going to come out. While people are alive and all the players and all this, it's not going to come out. It's just going to be stories. But once they're all dead, the truth will prevail.
But Steve, at the same time, Fauci's learning along with the rest of us.
Yeah.
And that crazy Chinese lab, part of their job is to like find out what kind of horrible strains you can do, but their actual safety procedures sucked. So that's they don't know that New Yorker does all the scenarios.
Right.
You don't really know yet, but the chances are, why would the country making the most money in the world deliberately try to destroy the world economy? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
China,
yeah,
Especially when they make money off of the rest of the world selling stuff.
yeah,
sure.
exactly. So,
Well, they
And
own most of the gold. I think China owns most of the gold and the copper now. Is that correct?
I don't know. That's worth checking. Let's have that. Somebody's got to do homework. Right, Jay, write that down.
I'll research that for next week.
They're a disciplined nation, I have to say that. Yeah, I think right now everyone should get their vaccine. Right now, we're heading June 15th. I think you mentioned we're in the yellow zone now, but on June 15th, California is opening up. I know that they're promoting California opening up. I know that we talked about making it to herd immunity, or herd immunity as a concept, and then there was a term that's used called culling the herd, and I think that's where we're heading into next.
That's a nickname for killing the herd.
Well,
yeah.
how about the one where if 40% of the population is obese, that's a pre-existing endangering condition.
Sure.
So is that the number that's going down? The guys with the diabetes, guy with the pulmonary, so maybe
those guys that are not vaccinated. Yeah, if they get the vaccine, they're at a higher risk of losing the herd immunity concept.
Right, or we lose our chance of culling them. And I think you can spell it kill them as well.
Yeah.
You could. Okay, and then so let's scoot along to the next one in our last topic, and I am looking forward to Putin and Biden showdown in 2 weeks. They're going to meet up in 2 weeks, and before we get to this, Moderna and Pfizer, they filed for the FDA approval. We'll see what happens. Pfizer did it in the past. We're moving past that now. Now, we just had Pride Week. Was that yesterday? Pride Day was yesterday. And Harley's
It's
on
the start
call.
of Pride.
The start of Pride Month, right? And then we got and for the beginning of that, to oppose it, right? Besides all the parades and everything that happened, you got the governor in Florida, DeSantis, signed a fairness in women's sports. No LGBTQ children will be participating moving forward in Florida. Now, I know next week, Harley and Anthony and everybody here will be on a call to talk more about the LGBTQ community. And if we don't know enough about it, we're going to learn more. Harley's going to share. But Harley,
it's a huge trans focus, yeah.
Trans focus, yeah. And so if you like Transformers and you like Trans Focus, come to the show next week. And then, but as far as today, what do you got to say about all that Pride Week happening and then DeSantis bringing that up? We talked about this a couple weeks ago about the LGBT or trans women performing.
Yeah, women in transports.
Sports.
Or yeah, I got that backwards,
Sports, yeah.
It sounds like it's narrow-minded for that governor to do that to me, to bring in the borders of who can participate in sports. It shouldn't it be based on skill? I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
Shouldn't
Well,
it
and
be skill?
the studies are out there, and it's the majority of sports after at least 1 year of hormones, they seem to be roughly equal. And after 2 years in track and field events, that number gets to about 14%. So, in Olympic context, maybe, but definitely not in a high school or a college context. Like this isn't a big deal. Please stop banning people.
No, exactly.
Harley,
Putting parameters in people's lives at such a young age is pathetic. And then they grow up with hangups because it was injected in part of their indoctrination in high school. That's chaotic and back ass. That's stupid.
And it pays off in suicide rates, which is really evil.
Yeah.
Give a kid a chance to be like. Did you catch the one, Harley, where was it Iowa? One of these states decided that there would be could have been West Virginia, no hormone treatment for children under 9, and the doctors are going like, that never happens.
Yeah, no, my state actually has a bill that's trying to go through where they want to ban hormone treatment entirely, which would be really bad for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in
Go on.
the 80s, when I had my flower carts in the Bay Area, there was a guy, he was transitioning, and I worked for, I want to say Intel, or again, one of the companies that don't exist anymore. Big guy, and he was definitely going through. But you see, he started in Canada back then, and then Colorado in the mid 80s was a state that was actually doing things here, and it was all out of pocket. And he was an interesting guy. Some we never really talked about, but a lot of respect for him, what decisions he made in his life. And again, that was in the mid 80s. He was doing that. So
so this was someone who was transitioning.
It would be a woman.
Okay, so it was a she then.
Right. And
Yeah.
things have changed. Things have really, really changed since then. And it's gotten easier, more acceptable, again, through education, through different things as far as what's coming out. But when you talk about the disparity of athleticism, again, I'm really on the fence on that. I really don't care either way. We as Americans should be able to make decisions. Do you want to watch this? Do you want to go to that? And if we're going to make a big deal about, the world records or, this or that, or who's stronger, who's weaker, people don't do these things. And Harley, you could say A or nay to this. Just because I can't be a strong male athlete, I want to become a female athlete and dominate. That's not the reason.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
Not the reason at all. So I don't think we're going to see world records be broken because we have people transitioning. I don't see that at all.
It takes the fun out of sports to begin with by being competitive. I mean, I played competitive sports. I played ice hockey my whole life. The funnest hockey I ever played was my friends and I getting together on a pond or a lake when it was frozen, where there were no rules and nobody cared. That's when you had the most fun, and that's when you learned the most about each other and how to advance, So this Nazi mentality, it's getting old.
It is getting old. And I'm glad that we're having the discussion here. I don't know if anybody has anything to say right now about that anymore. We've been on the call for a while, the show for a while now, of over an hour. And I really want to appreciate everybody for being here. I want to just say, Marvin, you got Our World Peace Park, and owpp.org is the website. Michael Houston, you're a contributor to the Foolish Times, and there's a write up. I don't know what page it's on right now, but you got a story in here, and then
it's Don Quixote and the QAnon. If you get crazy sources and you can go out and do violent stuff and think it's the right thing to do.
Right, and I think that's a new fad going on in our country today. And
well, I want to talk about that real quick, Jay. We live in a violent society, but we glorify violence in America with movies and media video games. I mean, we've been talking about it for 40 years since Nancy Reagan, but nothing changes. We love violence, and it's what we feed off of, and it's sick and it's wrong, but it's what we are.
Like when you play hockey.
I think that's what I'm talking about. It was a violent game, but I had fun with my friends.
And
Are your teeth real?
Yes.
Good. You must be good.
Well, I had to wear them in the 1970s and 80s. They made us wear a face mask. I hated it, but I'm glad I did.
Go ahead, Stevie. You got something to say?
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
it is a violent thing. I mean, it goes, look at the gladiators, look at what we've done throughout time. We love the demise of other people. And is that the human being?
And then it goes into the discrimination, and it goes everywhere, and it's a part of your life, and it's acceptable. You know, no, it shouldn't be accepted. But it is. And then, of course, if you have a good lawyer, you're covered. You don't have to worry about anything.
There's a chimpanzee study in which the alpha really enjoys abusing the bottom of the totem pole, and it shortens life. Is the stress is horrible, but when he goes too far, everybody takes the trees and tells him what a jerk he is. And these are chimpanzees, so there's some distant relatives who have a certain sense of where the lines might be. They've done one where I think they're third graders, and they do a silly game and say, okay, you win 3 cupcakes and you win 1. And the guy with 1 says, hey, that's not fair. And the other one says, you're right. And with frequency, there is some kind of sense of justice. The one that got the 3 never gives 2 to the guy with 1. But Ken frequently would come in to say, this ain't fair. So, so maybe there's something good in us, to quote Anne Frank or paraphrase her.
Thanks, Michael. Stevie P, I just want to say thanks again. We have a nice ad in here from everyone'scovered.com. All right. And it's life insurance is love insurance. And Father's Day is coming up. Make sure you get insurance for your dad. And also, little segue here. We have a nice little ad in here about joining us every Wednesday night.
Nice.
The sponsorship here. So thank you very much for that. And that's in thefoolishtimes.net. And you want to tell us about the cover real quick?
Oh, the cover is created by a gentleman named Ed, who he had a stroke. He's a comedian out of the Bay Area, been doing comedy, owns an ad agency, has been doing it for years. He part of his therapy was to draw. So he was on the Regis and Kelly show, or whatever the show's called now. And now he's in 50 states and 23 countries with his art. All you do is you send him an email with the picture of your pet. He does a 3x3 card, and he will do your pet, and he will send it to you free.
Nice. Very nice.
With the honor system of you donating to a local animal group in your area.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really cool. He's a great guy. Glad to know him. We chatted today for a while. The paper's been out for a day and a half, and already we're getting lit up with the cover. And who is this guy? And again, we write about him in the paper. In our community shout out, he answered great questions about what he does with art and the pandemic, and what he does with comedy, and really a decent human being. What he's doing of you donating to a local animal group in your area.
Is this live?
You can go to Pandemic Pet Project is one of the sites. And then another site is, I think, it's on page 3. There's a website, like 3x3 cards, left-hand side cover art by.
Steve, you could have held it up yourself.
I don't have a copy in front of me. That sounds terrible. I read everything at least twice.
You talking about here?
What's the website? Yeah, below contributors.
Contributors.
Where it says cover art.
I don't see a website.
Bottom of that column.
Cover design, Ed. Okay. Pandemic Pet Project, www.my3x3world.com. So let me put it up right here.
Yeah,
If
my
you can
3
see
by
that.
yeah.
Whatever. All right, well, we'll get it there for everybody. It's called my3x3world.com. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being on the call tonight. Next week, tune in. We'll learn more about the LGBTQ community and also what's going on in the world today. And Michael, thank you for coming in and joining us. Stevie P, God bless you and the foolish times and everything you're doing. Dad, Marvin, God bless you for sticking around another week.
Hey, good job getting out of the hospital.
Thank
Right.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. And then JR, thank you for coming back. I'm glad you got to spend time with your kids.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Anthony Torino for doing the great work last week, and for hopefully showing up next week and doing his thing with Harley and all of us. All right, God bless you guys. Have a good week.
Adios.
See you next week, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody have a good week.